Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Magro, and I'm with Alizent, as Martin said, a wholly owned subsidiary of the industrial Air Liquide Group. So basically, I've been 20 years in technology, the first part of my career as a software engineer or as a software guy, and the second part, almost around 9 years ago, I jumped into a more management track in my career. So I'm the technology guy, and even though I'm the technology guy, I'm going to try and stay away from technology in this presentation, because what I wanted to describe here or to tell you is the story of how the digital transformation, and more precisely the operations management system that we implemented in Air Liquide at large around the OSISoft PI, how that impacted the organizational aspects of the business, the anatomy of the entities working within Air Liquide, what kind of change is needed within this kind of group to implement such a digital transformation or industrial digital transformation. That's my intention today. So, let me just give you some context, some introduction of the Air Liquide Group. Well, we are the world leader in gases, technology, and services for basically the industry and healthcare. So we have industrial clients and patients today. And Air Liquide is a 120-years-old company, which was created in 1902 upon an invention. So we are a technology company, basically. The group was born upon the oxygen liquefaction procedure, and that was created the company. So we are basically a technology company. And also we are a global company, because if you can picture this in your heads, 1902, a brilliant guy come up with a method to liquefy oxygen. They created the company. In 1904, they were opening in Japan, a subsidiary in Japan. So we are a technology company, and we are, in our DNA, we are a global company, okay, an international company. Here you have some numbers about the Air Liquide Group. In 2015, the group took a really bold move and grew their activities in America very, very strongly with the acquisition of Airgas, who joined the Air Liquide family. So, which also had an impact in how we see ourselves these days, on how we started to see ourselves starting 2015, because for the first time that changed a little bit our map, the anatomy of the activities in the group. And for the first time in our history, the biggest activity of Air Liquide was outside Europe. So that came with the globalization of the group as a whole, and also impacted us in many ways. If we zoom into Alizent, which is, as I said, one of the teams within Air Liquide, a wholly owned subsidiary which specializes in what is known now as OT, operational technology, as opposed to IT, just IT applied to offices, laptops, and stuff. So we basically specialized in OT solutions around assets, and our mission orbitates around two axes, basically. The first one, as part of the Air Liquide Group, one of the teams specializing in technology within the Air Liquide Group, we help deliver the digital transformation within the group for everything that is related to assets, meaning asset management, optimization, production, and logistics. Every OT solution around assets. Basically, we are the executive branch, if you will, related to that part of the group. And then this is very peculiar about Alizent and how we develop our activities, our role within Air Liquide. And then we have a second mission, which is also part of our DNA, which is work with similar clients that have similar problems and challenges and configurations in terms of volumes and geographies than Air Liquide. So basically, we work with external clients, not only with Air Liquide, to prove that what we do is valuable, and basically to stay ourselves competitive and have this competitive edge. The basic premise here being, from an Air Liquide standpoint, if these guys are able to work with external clients and at the same time with us, they basically fulfill two goals. They are a source of innovation, which is self-financed, because we are profitable and we are proud of it. And the second point, they will be forced to stay competitive. And this is like the final proof. If someone outside is able to pay for what these guys do, they will do well also inside the Air Liquide Group. That's the basic theory. So our digital transformation that was started in 2015 was relying on three pillars. assets, basically our industrial assets, from plants to trucks to every asset that we use to leverage our products and services to make them reach our clients. The customers, our patients, our industrial clients, and it is no accident that customer is in the center of this slide, because this has been also the central axis of our latest 5-year development program in Air Liquide. Client and patient is at the center of everything we do in Air Liquide, almost every program. And the last one was ecosystem, basically how we work with each other within the group, how can we become more agile, how can we deliver faster, how can we stay competitive, innovative. Those were the 3 axes of the digital transformation within Air Liquide. And you can think of us, our team, Alizent, as the executive branch, as I said, of the first axis. So whatever has to be with assets, once it's gone through the say proof of concept phase or innovation phase, it comes to us to get industrialized to reach a global scale. There you have some of our numbers. Well, as I told you, we work with a number of clients that are pretty similar with to Air Liquide, similar challenges, similar configurations, similar global layouts. So it's really the same profile or similar profiles. You see also there our footprint, which is well, we are a small company. We are only 300 guys today, but we have a pretty decent global footprint to be able to accompany the Air Liquide Group and also our clients in those geographies, which is basically a part of our mission.
Nowadays, visualizing and monitoring real-time productivity is a necessity. Unplanned downtime and quality production are a daily concern. Energy cost and productivity are major issues. Industries can respond by taking digitalization to a whole new level. Created by industry, for industry, Alizent enables industrials to improve their operating model in a value-inducing way by combining deep data know-how with skill proficiency in industrial processes. We can help you in digitalizing your production operations. We collect, centralize, and analyze data, transforming it into actionable insights, which you can securely access anytime, anywhere, to empower your decision-making. Alizent creates value by providing you with the capacity to monitor and control your operations, to improve reliability and availability of your production system, and to operate your plant at its optimum level. Experience an end-to-end solution with expert team support from IT architects to data scientists. With Alizent, boost your performance and experience new ways of working.
Ouch. Well, that was a video just summing up what we do. They warned me before that it was in autoplay, but I didn't realize. So that's why we went violently into the video without even knowing. So let me zoom in into the story that I wanted to tell, but it's good also to know the context, because the way we organize and Alison, the role we play within the Air Liquide Group, it's also part of the anatomy of how we implemented this digital transformation. Creating this global OT operator in the figure of Alizent was no accident. It was part of the journey. So please bear with me if I spend some minutes explaining you the configuration and how that is configured. So we zoom in into the project and the story that I want to tell you about. And let me give you some context. Okay. First, what you can see here in the diagram are the main business lines of Air Liquide. And when I talk about operations management system, I'm talking about the operation management and control system around the primary production of Air Liquide, which happens in this first business line that is with the red rectangle, which it's what we call large industries. So these guys are the guys that has pipelines for really big clients that get their gases through pipelines. It's also the guys who produce for the rest of the business line, for the guys who put the gas in cylinders or transport gas in trucks for bulk and bulk delivery. So basically, when I talk about production, I'm talking about primary production for large industries, for this business line within Air Liquide, just for clarification. Only these guys, we are talking about 200 sites today operating, and 150 more coming just in the next couple of years. So they have a really large operation. So let's just see a brief history of OSISoft PI within Air Liquide, how it was started and what it has become in the latest year, with also the impact of the digital transformation. It all started in 2001, so we've been using the system now for almost 18 years. In 2001, the main driver, as you can see there, for installing PI was, okay, let's have more information so we can optimize the energy consumption, which is, as you probably know, one of the main cost components of gas production. So let's have some more information, and with this information, let's see how we can optimize energy. That was a success. It was successful not only for that, but also for other things, for standardizing processes. And in 2003, we started the second phase, which was the installation of Italy and Spain. Pretty soon it became a standard for the Europeans, and it was clear that it was going to be deployed as the standard tool for streamlining operations, procedures, how we visualize and get information. So we had this second wave of European installations, and it became our sort of standard de facto when in 2009, 2008, we started to deploy the Asia Pacific and Middle East and Africa, which are two of the most important governance regions within Air Liquide, as you saw in the previous slides. So when we started to deploy the system in Asia Pacific, and it got out of Europe in a way, it was clear that it was becoming a standard de facto. And it was used to standardize operations and really to create a blueprint of what operating the primary production plant was within Air Liquide. And then in 2015, we have the appearance of the digital transformation. And with this digital transformation, we realized two things. Many initiatives around operations, many initiatives around industrial processes, and we realized it's pretty fragmented. I mean, it's good to have a global strategy, but how are we going to implement? We cannot impose things to the different P&Ls and subsidiaries that we have in Air Liquide. As almost any industrial company, I guess, where you have to get your production closer to your client, Air Liquide is a very, or decently decentralized industrial group. And so you cannot impose things to the P&Ls. You have to find consensus. You have to adapt things to them. So the first thing is, okay, it's good that we have a vision. It's already a good thing. We have a bold vision within the digital transformation. But how do we implement this or deploy it on a large scale, on a global scale? That was the first thing. And then we realized that we had a number of IT companies or OT companies specializing in different teams, departments, etc. And we created Alizent. This is the moment where we are born, as the global OT operator that can accompany the group in this digital transformation. So we basically merged different teams, 3 different companies, and we created Alison. And the second thing we realized with this digital transformation, because that was one of the focus in the beginning on the technical roadmap, is that we were sitting on a mountain of data. I mean, we had almost 15 years of data, and there was a lot of value there. We started to run POCs, and some of these POCs were really promising, and we realized there was something bigger to do around that. So those were the 2 realizations. At that point, we also managed to convince the Americans, who were running a sort of homebrew technology, and we managed to convince them to join the standard program, becoming really a global program within Air Liquide. Of course, that was the perfect timing, because at that point in time, we also signed one of those enterprise agreements that our friends at OSISoft are so willing to talk about. But, but here we had, I would say that, well, coming back maybe to Martin's question in the beginning, it was an enabler for us because we acted as proxy, Alizent, and that's part of our role. We can take maybe credit for that, our team within Air Liquide. We acted as a proxy, and having the enterprise agreement allowed us to have some standard through which we can create packages for customization, for regional customization. And it liberated us of negotiating with these guys who can be really tough, like every 2 other weeks. So that was really an enabler for us. It enabled us to packetize waste in a different way that enabled the global scale deployment with customization for regions. And the second thing I would say is it also unleashed part of the potential of not having to think about the licensing or the license you're going to install for a user at any time you create a new application or a new dashboard, or really to be able to generalize new visualization mechanisms and stuff like that. So, well, for us, it was an enable. So you see perfect timing, enterprise agreement, digital transformation, the Americans becoming on board the project, and it becomes global. It becomes really, really global. So now it's a global solution. It's a worldwide solution adopted by all the Air Liquide large industries. And it represents, I like to think of it like that, a physical implementation of the operating procedures, basically. How we look at data, how we troubleshoot data, which kind of dashboards and KPIs we use to troubleshoot data, to analyze data in the long run too. So I said I was going to try and stay away from technology, so this is very, very light, even though it looks like a technological slide, okay? I don't want to talk about technology, because really it's not the important thing here. The solution today is complex. It's not only OSISoft PI, but there is a number of satellite applications and modules that go together with the package, plus all the support services which are adapted to the different regions, plus even the hardware. Just to give you an idea, on this first layer that you see there, the data capture, where we see, well, connectivity with the DCAs, all the automation, the connectivity, the hardware part of it. When we deploy something in a plant, you can visit any plant of Air Liquide anywhere in the world, and the hardware will look the same. I mean, you can go to the rack where the OSISoft PI local instance is installed, and you will see the same color in the wires, the same type of rack, the same type of installation. I mean, even my 10-year-old can do the maintenance on that and can do support. That really simplifies things. So we have always had this like ambition of productifying the thing so we can customize it for the different regions. And that was part of the challenge. And that was part of the, let's say, keys of finding consensus with all the different regions while adapting to their needs. For us, has been absolutely key. Since the beginning, or almost the beginning, I'd say 2009, we had the wonderful idea of centralizing every piece of data that was coming from the local OSISoft PIs into a central server. And we've been running 2 instances, now 3. So we have, in the same format, Europe, Asia Pac, and Americas. Well, sorry, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Asia Pac, and Americas. That is the third that we recently installed with the Americans getting on board. And that was a beautiful idea because that enabled us to also run a lot of proof of concepts and tests with the data analytics. Having all the data in the same place gives you a very good global perspective of what is your level of maturity when it comes to data standardization between not only regions, which would be the macro view, but also on a micro scale between different plants. That was really a wonderful idea. In terms of application, I said it's not only OSISoft PI or the suite that comes along with OSISoft PI, but also a number of applications that we created around to transform the OSISoft PI in what I would call, if you allow me the terminology, an SCADA for our operations. So based on that data, we have applications on top that are providing notifications, alarms, notifications, escalation of those notifications to all the different operators and managers within plants. I mean, there is a hierarchy around that. We also have created a layer for remote control in the plants, which enables to tweak certain variables, not all of them, of course, but to tweak certain variables of the plants remotely. And especially we have a suite of advanced analytic applications or data analytics applications. Notably, I'll talk about the predictive maintenance, but also one which we call a BEP, which is an optimization application. And BEP stands for best economical point, where just an analyst in the remote operation control center can analyze or run this BEP application, find the best economical point of a plant, and with the suggestions that you get from that application, you use the remote control application to implement them remotely. It's as advanced as that. So if we look at the organizational impact of all that, I had to choose, because they told me I have to keep this down to 10 minutes, which I'm not going to do, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm okay. Well, in my first rehearsal, it was like 40 minutes, you know. But well, I had to choose when I created this presentation, and I've chosen 2 notions that I think are very good insights or pretty interesting to any industrial player in the market or in the industry. The first one is the notion of a control tower. This exists in many different industries. If we look, for instance, in our own sector, if we look at the pipelines activity, we have in the coast within Texas and Louisiana, we have more than 3,000 kilometers of pipeline, and we are serving hundreds of clients in those along those pipelines. In that kind of business, it's regulated, it's heavily regulated. A scale that where you can centralize everything, have this control tower, it's pretty normal, okay? It's business as usual, no innovation there. It's been like that for the last 25 to 30 years. But in our business, where plants are scattered all across the board, in different regions, in different countries, where our experts are only in one place, because it's those brilliant guys who know about the rotating equipment, or those guys who know how the thermodynamical process happening inside a compressor are, those guys are really, really scarce. So how do we leverage them on a global scale? Well, I cannot take any credit for this. This was the business vision. It's my colleagues in the industrial management that take credit for all this, because they really had a bold vision, but they created this notion enabled by the technology, but really the vision was created by the business. They created this notion of the control tower, of what we call the remote operation center, where they have analysts. I'm a technology guy, but really I'm still fascinated by this notion. They have the analyst layered into 3 different layers, the guys working in the short term, in the mid-term, and in the long term. And they are all of them leveraging the tools that we have installed, that we have deployed, the suite of technological tools that they have at hand to optimize operations remotely, meaning that the guys that used to be really scarce and that you barely access from time to time, now they are working day to day, adding value, discovering new things, exploring new ways to create value for the company, which to me is pretty amazing. And the second layer, the more operational layer, the less Star Trek technology level, if I can say it like that, is the operational part. I mean, thanks to a technology in which we, just to give you an idea, we created in this application that we have, PI Vision, for visualizing information. We not only generated a number of dashboards and visualization screens that the people uses on a recurrent basis as a standard way to look at operations, meaning that they have become a much more data-driven team. It's not only that, but we created a library of symbols, for instance, extending the capacities of the PI Vision and OSISoft PI, so they can create synoptics with their own language, with their own vocabulary, with their own symbols, and look at things in their own particular way. And based on that sort of, I would say, Air Liquide toolbox that we created for them, they are creating what I call a physical implementation of their industrial processes. So instead of generating piles of documentation like this, it's organic, it's screens, it's tools that we can leverage on a day-to-day basis, and dashboards we can look at. I gave you here a picture of one of the control centers. This one is in Lyon, that I have visited myself a number of times. And it's, as I said, it's pretty cool. It's a Star Wars sort of picture, okay? It's really advanced. Well, lessons learned or conclusions for this presentation. The first one, the true transformation is the transformation of the organization. I mean, I'm the technologist in this team and within Air Liquide, but honestly, technology is absolutely secondary here. And in fact, sometimes I have meetings with colleagues or with external clients that we are discussing a project. And when we get to the second or third meeting and we have a good level of, let's say, a good relationship, I always say the same thing. If you don't have a bold vision from the business side of things, it is better that we part ways, we stop talking, we remain friends, but you're going to carry me with you into your failure. Because, I mean, only technology and digital tourism, it's just not enough, okay? It's doomed to fail. And you really need to have a bold vision on the business side of things. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? And well, here goes all the credit to my business colleagues within Air Liquide, because they did have a bold vision, and we just were the vehicle for that vision. Digital is more about people and less about technology. I mean, all that I have tried to synthesize, the remote operations control, the new tools, the new screens, the new dashboards, these procedures that become tools rather than documents and stuff like that, or documents to follow, all that means a skilled workforce in tools that they didn't know maybe how to use in just 5 or 10 years ago. It also means a new anatomy of the companies. I mean, they need to reconcentrate certain skills or teams, create new entities, new groups, It's really a lot of transformation, and it's all about people. So people need to embark into that to be able to get value from the tools. And that's how you become a data-driven organization. It's not because you have a lot of data lakes and stuff like that, or 100 OSISoft PI instances per plant, that you're going to become data-driven. You become data-driven when your people is hungry for data, and their standard procedures rely on data. And that is a huge change management process. And then 2 more points, and maybe I can take some credit for these last 2, at least as Alison, our team. Capacity to plan, meaning you need to have that bold vision that we were talking about. You need to be able to plan, sit back, generate a vision, generate a roadmap, plan for the long run. These kind of technologies, even in the midterm, they just don't work. I mean, it's good to have a long-term vision, even if you have tactics to attack on the day-to-day, on the midterm and the short-term. But you really need to be able to generate that vision, have a capacity to plan. And here's where I said I can take some credit, because we are the vehicle of the global strategy within Air Liquide, while being the guys who implement in front of the subsidiaries, in front of the regions, in front of the P&Ls, adapting that global vision implementation to their own local needs. And that is a gap, a bridge that needs to exist at some point. And that is my 4th lessons learned, which is capacity to act. You need to decompose the factors in that plan, in that roadmap, and make it happen on a local basis and on a day-to-day basis. Meaning that you need to be able to decompose into those factors and find consensus on a global scale by also contributing to fulfilling the needs of the local guys, of every P&L. It cannot be an imposition. In my case, I'm based out of Paris, and we always have this joke, as you can imagine, in the Air Liquide Group. So when they see you coming in the United States, they say, okay, the French are coming. Okay, now they are going to impose their rules and stuff like that. It cannot happen like that. I mean, there's no transformation, real transformation that can happen like that. So you need to bridge some gap there between the bold strategy, the global plan, the things that happen at corporate level, and the tactics on how do we implement that with the local guys. That needs to happen. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.